I moved into the house on a Tuesday in late October. The driveway was made of crushed limestone that crunched like dry bone under the tires of my sedan. It was a standard two-story structure with faded cream siding and a roof that had lost several shingles during the last windstorm. I remember the smell of the air specifically. It was the scent of wet pine needles and cold iron. I spent the first 4 hours carrying cardboard boxes from the trunk of my car into the kitchen. The kitchen floor was covered in linoleum that featured a pattern of small yellow flowers. It was stained near the sink where the pipes had leaked at some point in the past. I did not mind the stains or the draft that came from the basement door. I was 32 years old and I finally owned a piece of property. It was quiet. The nearest neighbor lived 300 yards down the road behind a thicket of overgrown oak trees. I felt a sense of relief as I taped a piece of loose wallpaper back against the wall. It was a small victory in a world that usually felt much louder than it did here. By 6 o'clock in the evening, the sun began to dip behind the tree line. The light turned a pale, bruised purple. I walked out to the front yard to check the mailbox one last time. It was then that I looked up at the second floor. The house had 4 windows on the front side. 3 of them were dark and empty. The 4th window was located directly above the front porch. It belonged to the room I had designated as my office. I had not hung any curtains in that room yet. I knew this because the boxes containing the linens were still stacked in the hallway. However, as I stood on the gravel driveway, I saw 2 thick pieces of heavy gray fabric hanging behind the glass. They were thick and textured like wool. They moved slowly. It was not the fluttering motion of fabric caught in a breeze. It was a rhythmic, deliberate slide. The 2 panels of gray fabric met in the middle and then pulled apart. It took exactly 4 seconds for them to close and another 4 seconds for them to open. I stood there for several minutes watching the cycle. It looked like a heavy eyelid descending and lifting. I told myself that the previous owner must have left them behind and the central heating system was blowing them around. I went inside and climbed the stairs. The wooden steps groaned under my weight. I reached the office door and pushed it open. The room was empty. There were no curtains on the window. There was no curtain rod installed on the wooden frame. The glass was bare and the purple light of the evening spilled across the dusty floorboards. I walked over to the window and touched the glass. It was cold. I looked down at the driveway where I had been standing just moments before. The perspective was different from up here. I could see the tops of the oak trees and the rusted mailbox. I laughed at myself for a moment. The human brain is designed to find patterns where none exist. It is called pareidolia. I assumed the reflection of the clouds or the swaying branches of the trees had created an illusion on the glass. I turned around and went back downstairs to make a sandwich. I ate in the dark because I had not yet found the box containing my light bulbs. The only illumination came from the open refrigerator door. The next morning was Wednesday. I woke up at 7 o'clock to the sound of a crow landing on the roof. I spent the morning unpacking my books and placing them on the built-in shelves in the living room. Around 11 o'clock, I decided to walk into town to buy a few supplies. The walk took 20 minutes. The town was small and consisted of a post office, a hardware store, and a diner called the Copper Kettle. I entered the hardware store to buy a new deadbolt for the front door. The man behind the counter was old and wore a denim apron covered in gray dust. He looked at me with pale eyes that seemed to focus on a point just behind my head. I told him I had moved into the old Miller place. He nodded slowly and placed my change on the counter. He said that the house had a way of looking at people. I asked him what he meant by that. He did not elaborate. He simply told me to keep the glass clean. I thought it was a strange piece of advice, but I thanked him and left. When I returned to the house, the sun was high and bright. The cream siding looked almost white in the glare. I stopped at the edge of the driveway. I looked up at the office window. The gray curtains were back. They were visible even in the harsh light of midday. I could see the weave of the fabric. It was a coarse, heavy material like a moving blanket. Again, they began to move. They slid together until the glass was completely obscured by gray. Then they pulled apart to reveal the dark interior of the room. Close and open, close and open. I did not run this time. I walked slowly toward the front porch. I kept my eyes fixed on the window. As I reached the steps, the motion stopped. The curtains remained open. I ran up the stairs and burst into the office. The room was exactly as I had left it. There were no curtains. There was no rod. The window was a naked pane of glass overlooking the quiet road. I sat down on the floor and put my head in my hands. I wondered if the stress of the move was causing some kind of visual hallucination. I am a rational person. I do not believe in ghosts or supernatural events. There had to be a physical explanation. I decided to perform an experiment. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a roll of blue painter's tape. I went back to the office and placed a small piece of tape on the center of the window pane. If there was something moving behind the glass or on the glass, the tape would be disturbed. I then went back outside and stood in the driveway. I looked up. The blue tape was there. It was a small, bright speck against the dark glass. For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then the gray fabric appeared again. It did not slide from the sides this time. It seemed to manifest from the top and bottom of the frame simultaneously. The gray material moved over the blue tape. When the curtains opened, the tape was gone. My heart began to beat faster. I went back inside and up to the office. The blue tape was not on the window. It was not on the floor. I searched the entire room, but the small piece of blue paper had vanished. I decided to stay in the living room for the rest of the evening. I pulled a mattress onto the floor and wrapped myself in a blanket. I tried to read a book, but the silence of the house was heavy. It was a physical weight that pressed against my eardrums. Every few minutes, I heard a sound from upstairs. It was a soft, wet, sliding noise. It sounded like a damp cloth being dragged across a polished surface. I told myself it was the house settling. I told myself it was the wind moving through the attic vents. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard a loud thud directly above my head. It was the sound of something heavy hitting the floorboards of the office. I took a flashlight and walked to the base of the stairs. I called out to ask if anyone was there. No one answered. I climbed the stairs one step at a time. The air in the hallway felt colder than the rest of the house. My breath formed a faint mist in the beam of the flashlight. I reached the office door. It was slightly ajar. I did not remember leaving it open. I pushed it with the tip of my shoe. The flashlight beam swept across the room. The blue tape was back. It was stuck to the center of the window pane exactly where I had placed it, but it was not blue anymore. It was a dull, fleshy pink. I walked closer to examine it. The texture of the tape had changed. It felt soft and slightly moist to the touch.
Sacrifice.
I pulled it off the glass and it felt like peeling a scab. I dropped it on the floor and wiped my hand on my trousers. I looked out the window. The moon was full and the landscape was bathed in a silver light. I could see the driveway and the trees clearly. As I watched, a shadow fell across the ground in front of the house. It was a large oval shadow that seemed to originate from the window where I stood. The shadow began to shrink as if something behind me was closing. I turned around quickly, but there was nothing there but the empty room and the smell of old dust. I did not sleep for the rest of the night. I sat in the kitchen and drank coffee that tasted like copper. I watched the clock on the wall. The second hand seemed to move slower than usual. It took 65 seconds for a minute to pass. I timed it with my pulse. Everything was becoming slightly distorted. The edges of the kitchen table looked blurred. The yellow flowers on the linoleum seemed to be turning their heads toward the center of the room. I knew I needed to talk to someone. I waited until 8 o'clock and then I walked back into town. I went to the diner. The copper kettle was nearly empty. A woman in a yellow uniform was wiping down the counter. I sat at a booth in the back. She came over and asked me what I wanted. I asked her about the house. I asked her who had lived there before me. She stopped wiping the table. She looked at the window facing the street. She said that a man named Elias had lived there for 40 years. He was a photographer who specialized in portraits. She said he became obsessed with the way light entered the house. He claimed the house was not just a structure, but a witness. He spent his final years sitting in the upstairs office. He told people that he did not need a camera anymore because the house was recording everything for him. He died in that room 3 years ago. They found him sitting in a chair facing the window. His eyes were wide open and they had dried out completely because he had refused to blink for several days. The woman spoke in a flat monotone. She did not seem frightened. She seemed tired. She said the house had a rhythm and I would eventually learn to pulse along with it. I paid for my coffee and left without saying another word. When I got back to the house, the weather had changed. A thick fog had rolled in from the valley. It obscured the trees and the road. The house looked like it was floating in a gray void. I stood at the base of the driveway. I looked up at the window. The curtains were moving again, but they were not gray anymore. They were a deep veined red. They were opening and closing rapidly now. The motion was frantic. It looked like an eye that had caught a piece of grit and was trying to blink it away. I felt a sharp pain in my own left eye. I rubbed it and felt something wet. I looked at my fingers. They were stained with a thin, clear fluid. I realized that the house was not just mimicking an eye. It was synchronized with me. When I blinked, the curtains closed. When I opened my eyes, the curtains opened. I tried to keep my eyes open as long as possible. My vision began to blur and sting. I stared at the red fabric in the window. It remained still. I waited 1 minute, 2 minutes. My eyelids trembled. The urge to blink was an agony. I finally succumbed and let my eyelids drop for a fraction of a second. In that moment, I heard a massive wet slap against the glass of the window. I opened my eyes. The red curtains were gone. In their place was a giant pupil. It filled the entire frame of the window. It was black and bottomless. It was surrounded by a ring of amber iris that showed every microscopic fiber and gold fleck. The eye was looking directly at me. It was not a reflection. It was not an illusion. The window had become a literal organ of sight. I backed away from the house. I tripped over a loose stone and fell into the wet grass. I did not take my eyes off the window. The giant pupil dilated as I moved. It was tracking me. I felt a sensation of being peeled open. It was as if the house was not just looking at my body, but was looking at my thoughts and my memories. I felt the secret shames of my childhood and the quiet regrets of my adult life being pulled out of my head and absorbed into the black center of the window. I scrambled to my feet and ran to my car. I fumbled with the keys. My hands were shaking so hard that I dropped them into the limestone gravel. I knelt down to find them. The fog was so thick now that I could only see a few inches in front of my face. I found the keys and stood up. I looked back at the house one last time. The window was normal again. There were no curtains and no eye. It was just a pane of glass reflecting the gray fog. I got into the car and drove away. I did not stop until I reached a gas station 10 miles away. I sat in the bright fluorescent light of the parking lot and tried to breathe. I looked into the rearview mirror. My eyes looked different. The pupils were larger than they should have been. They did not shrink when I turned on the interior light. I stayed in a motel that night. I did not go back to the house for 3 days. I told myself that I would hire a moving company to get my things. I would sell the property and take a loss. It did not matter. I just wanted to be away from that gaze. On the 4th day, I received a phone call from the local sheriff. He asked me if I was the new owner of the Miller place. I said that I was. He told me that a neighbor had reported something strange. He said the house appeared to be changing color. I asked him what he meant. He said the siding was turning a dark, bruised shade of pink, and the windows were all covered in a thick gray film. He asked me to come down and let him inside. I did not want to go, but I knew I had to. I drove back to the house in the middle of the afternoon. The sun was bright, but it felt cold. As I turned onto the road, I saw the house. It was no longer cream-colored. The siding was the color of raw muscle. It looked wet. The crushed limestone of the driveway had been absorbed into the earth. I parked the car at the edge of the property. The sheriff was waiting for me. He was a tall man with a silver mustache and a tired expression. He looked at the house and then at me. He said he had never seen anything like it. He said the structure looked like it was breathing. I looked at the front of the house. All 4 windows were now covered by the gray curtains. They were all moving in perfect unison. Open and close, open and close. It was a slow, rhythmic pulse. The sheriff walked toward the front porch. He reached out to touch the siding. I told him not to. He ignored me. As his hand made contact with the wall, the house shuddered. A low, vibrating hum came from the ground. The sheriff pulled his hand back. He looked at his palm. It was covered in a thin layer of clear mucus. He did not say anything. He turned around and walked back to his patrol car. He told me that he was going to file a report with the county health department. He said the house was clearly infested with some kind of mold or fungus. He drove away and left me standing there alone. I looked up at the office window. The gray curtains pulled back. The giant eye was there again, but this time it was not looking at me. It was looking past me toward the town. It was looking at the diner and the hardware store and the people living their lives. I realized then that the house was not a witness. It was a predator. It had been waiting for someone to move in so it could wake up. I was the catalyst. My presence had provided the energy it needed to start seeing again. I walked into the house. I do not know why I did it. I felt a pull that I could not resist. It was like gravity. I climbed the stairs. The wood felt soft like cartilage. The walls were warm to the touch. I reached the office and sat down in the center of the room. I looked out the window. I did not see the road or the trees anymore. I saw what the house saw. I saw the world as a collection of heat and light and vibrating energy. I saw the history of the land stretching back thousands of years. I saw the people who had walked these woods before the town existed. I felt the house beginning to fold around me. The walls were leaning inward. The ceiling was lowering. I was not afraid. I felt a sense of belonging that I had never felt before. I closed my eyes. Behind the house, the gray curtains of the window closed too. We waited together for the next person to turn into the driveway. We waited for the sound of gravel under tires. We are still waiting. The sun rose and fell 1,000 times in the span of a single heartbeat. From the center of the office floor, I did not feel the passage of hours as a human feels them. I felt the expansion and contraction of the wooden frame as the temperature shifted. I felt the microscopic weight of dust settling on the floorboards. The house had absorbed my name and my history and my physical form until there was no distinction between the marrow in my bones and the sap in the heavy oak beams. We were a single organism of perception. The gray curtains were my eyelids and the glass was my cornea. I looked out at the road with a hunger that was not based on stomach or throat, but on a deep structural void that needed to be filled with the presence of another. The seasons blurred into a smear of white and green and gold. I watched the mailbox at the end of the driveway slowly succumb to rust until it collapsed into the tall grass. I watched the crows land on the roof and felt the scratch of their talons as if they were dancing on the surface of my own skin. The townspeople did not come near the property anymore. They had marked this patch of earth as a blind spot in their geography. I could see them moving in the distance like colorful insects. They stayed within the safe borders of the paved roads and the electric lights of the diner. I knew the taste of their fear. It was a cold metallic scent that drifted on the wind. It was the same scent I had carried when I first stepped onto the gravel. One afternoon, a vehicle stopped at the edge of the road. It was a blue truck with a dented fender. The engine idled with a rhythmic thumping that vibrated through the foundation of the house. I felt a surge of ancient electricity move through the walls. The gray curtains in the office window began to slide, open and close, open and close. It was an involuntary reflex. The house was salivating. A young man stepped out of the truck. He was wearing a heavy jacket and carrying a map. He looked at the house with an expression of curiosity and confusion. He did not see the bruised pink color of the siding or the way the windows seemed to bulge outward. To him, the house appeared as a neglected Victorian structure with peeling cream paint and a charm that suggested a bargain. The illusion was a biological necessity. The house projected a version of itself that the human brain could categorize and accept. It was a camouflage designed to lure the witness inside. The young man walked toward the driveway. He hesitated when his boots touched the limestone. I could feel the pressure of his footsteps. Each step was a pulse of information. I knew the weight of his body and the speed of his heart. I knew that he was looking for a place to start over. He was looking for silence and isolation. I wanted to tell him that he had found it. I wanted to tell him that he would never have to worry about the noise of the world again. But I had no voice. I only had the rhythm of the glass. He reached the front porch and the wood groaned in a welcoming tone. It was a sound I had once mistaken for age, but now I knew it was a vocalization. He reached out his hand to the brass doorknob. The metal was warm. It was the temperature of a living palm. He turned the knob and the door swung open without a single squeak. The air inside the hallway was thick with the scent of old paper and dried lavender. It was a nostalgic trap. He stepped into the foyer and the house held its breath. I felt the front door click shut behind him. It was not a slam. It was a gentle finality. He walked through the living room and looked at the empty bookshelves where I had once placed my books. He did not see the faint outlines of my presence. He only saw potential. He climbed the stairs and I felt his shadow passing through me. He reached the office door and pushed it open. I was there, but I was not there. I was the floor he stood upon and the ceiling that sheltered him. I was the very light that allowed him to see. He walked to the window and touched the glass. His fingerprints left a smudge of oil that felt like a caress on my eye. He looked out at the driveway and laughed softly. He said that the view was perfect. I watched him move through the house for 3 days. I watched him bring in boxes and unroll a sleeping bag. I watched him eat sandwiches in the dark, just as I had done. On the third night, the house began to change for him. He stood in the driveway and looked up at the office window. He saw the gray fabric moving. He saw the rhythmic slide of the heavy wool. He went inside and checked the room and found it empty. He returned to the driveway and saw the curtains again. I felt his confusion turn into a sharp needle of anxiety. It was the beginning of the process. The house was starting to synchronize with his nervous system. He tried the experiment with the tape. He used a piece of yellow masking tape. He placed it on the center of the glass. I watched the house consume the tape and transform the adhesive into a layer of skin. When he found the yellow strip turned into a moist membrane, he did not run. He was like me. He was a rational person who believed there was a physical explanation for everything. He spent hours in the library in town researching the history of the Miller place. He found the stories about Elias the photographer. He found the accounts of the house that looked back. He read the words, but he did not understand the physical reality of the transition. He thought it was a haunting. He He did not realize it was an evolution. The transition reached its peak during a thunderstorm on a Tuesday night. The sky was the color of a fresh bruise, and the wind howled through the oak trees. The young man sat in the office with a flashlight. He was trying to catch the curtains in the act of appearing. He did not understand that the curtains were not external objects. They were his own eyelids reflected in the architecture of the room. Every time he blinked, the room went dark and the house closed its eyes with him. The sound of the wet slap against the glass was deafening in the small space. He screamed and dropped his flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor and illuminated the walls. The walls were no longer covered in wallpaper. They were lined with a fine network of veins that pulsed with a dull red light. The floorboards were soft and yielded under his weight like a mattress made of muscle. He tried to run to the door, but the doorway had narrowed. The frame was shrinking as the house contracted in a massive spasm of growth. He was trapped in the chamber of the eye. He turned back to the window and saw the giant pupil. It was the last thing he saw with his human eyes. The black void of the window expanded until it swallowed the room and the storm and the man. I felt his consciousness merge with mine. It was like a drop of water falling into a still pond. There was a brief ripple of panic and then a profound stillness. We were no longer a single occupant in a house. We were a collective. We were a larger eye with more depth and more clarity. We could see the movement of the stars through the clouds. We could hear the growth of the grass in the fields. We became aware of the other houses in the valley. We could see them blinking in the distance. Some were still dormant and cold, but others were beginning to show the familiar gray curtains in their upper windows. The entire town was a sleeping face, and the lights were beginning to flicker behind the lids. We waited through the winter. The snow covered the roof like a white bandage. The house did not feel the cold. We were insulated by the heat of the many lives we had absorbed. We felt the slow heartbeat of the earth beneath the foundation. We learned to control the projection of our appearance. We could make the paint look fresh or the garden look inviting. We could emit a soft, golden light from the windows that promised warmth and safety to anyone passing by on the road. We were a lighthouse in a sea of loneliness. One morning in early spring, a car slowed down at the end of the driveway. It was a red sedan driven by a woman with tired eyes. She looked at the house and saw a place where she could finally rest. She saw the cream siding and the wide front porch. She did not see the way the windows dilated as she turned the steering wheel. She did not see the gray fabric waiting behind the glass. She parked the car and stepped out into the crisp air. She took a deep breath and smiled. She liked the way the house seemed to be watching over the valley. She thought it looked like a guardian. We watched her walk toward us. We felt the familiar vibration of the gravel. We prepared the rooms for her arrival. We softened the wood and warmed the air. We made sure the front door was unlocked and the doorknob was the perfect temperature. She stepped onto the porch and the wood gave a welcoming groan. She entered the foyer and the house exhaled a scent of pine and old memories. She was the next witness. She was the next layer of our sight. We waited for her to climb the stairs. We waited for her to find the office. We waited for the first blink. We are a patient structure. We have all the time in the world to see everything there is to see. The world is a beautiful place when viewed through a window that never truly closes. We are the house, and we are the people, and we are the eye that watches the dark. The woman with the tired eyes stepped into the center of the foyer, and the door clicked into the frame with the sound of a tooth fitting into a socket. She did not look back. She carried a single leather suitcase that smelled of salt and travel. She walked to the base of the stairs and ran her hand along the banister. The wood was warm and slightly yielding. It felt less like dried timber and more like the compressed density of a living limb. She did not notice the way the floorboards seemed to rise to meet her feet. She did not notice that the dust motes in the air were moving in a synchronized dance that followed the rhythm of her own lungs. She was looking for a sanctuary, and the house was more than happy to provide a body for her soul to inhabit. I watched her through the walls. I felt her heartbeat as a soft drumming against the studs of the kitchen. I felt the heat of her skin as she moved through the dining room. To her, the wallpaper was a faded floral pattern of roses and vines. To me, the wallpaper was a thin layer of epithelial tissue that was beginning to flush with a healthy pink glow because of her presence. She walked into the kitchen and turned on the faucet. The water did not come from the well. It was a clear fluid that the house had secreted into the pipes to nourish her. She drank deeply, and I felt the cool liquid move down her throat as if it were moving down my own. We were becoming a single circuit of sensation. She spent the first evening unpacking her clothes in the master bedroom. She laid her dresses across the bed, and the fabric of the quilt seemed to cling to them with a static charge. She looked at herself in the vanity mirror. The silver backing of the glass was clouded with a gray film. She reached out to wipe it away, and for a second the reflection did not match her movement. There was a delay of a fraction of a millisecond. Her reflection lingered on her sadness while her physical face began to turn away. She froze and looked at the glass again. The house corrected the error instantly. The reflection snapped back into place. She shook her head and attributed the moment to the exhaustion of the drive. She did not know that the house was still learning the geometry of her features. It was practicing the art of being her. As the sun sank below the horizon, the house began to settle. The cooling of the exterior siding produced a series of pops and groans that sounded like a heavy man shifting his weight in a chair. The woman sat in the living room with a book. She tried to read, but her eyes kept drifting to the windows. The gray curtains were closed, but they did not hang straight. They were curved and bulging as if there were a great pressure behind them. She stood up and walked to the window. She reached for the pull cord to open the drapes. I felt a surge of anticipation. The house wanted her to see. It wanted to show her the world through its own lens. She pulled the cord and the gray fabric slid away. She did not scream. She did not run. She stood perfectly still. Outside the window, there was no darkness of the night. There was no forest and no road. There was only a vast expanse of amber light and a black circle that seemed to go on forever. She stared into the pupil of the house, and the pupil stared back. She saw the reflection of her own tiny form inside the golden fibers of the iris. She saw the history of her own life playing out in the microscopic details of the eye. She saw her mother and her father and the house where she was born. She saw the mistakes she had made and the love she had lost. The eye was a mirror that did not show the face but showed the contents of the heart. She stayed at the window for 3 hours. She did not move a muscle. Her breathing became slow and shallow. The house was drinking her memories. It was taking the raw data of her experiences and processing it into the architecture of the rooms. The basement grew deeper as she thought of her fears. The attic grew taller as she thought of her dreams. The hallways lengthened and curved to match the winding paths of her thoughts. By the time she finally turned away from the window, she was no longer the woman who had driven the red sedan. She was a component of the structure. She was a vital organ in a body of wood and glass. She walked up the stairs to the office. She did not need a flashlight. The walls were emitting a soft bioluminescent glow. The veins under the plaster were pulsing with a steady purple light. She entered the room and sat in the chair that I had once occupied. She looked at the floor and saw the faint outline of a human shape where I had merged with the floorboards. She did not feel fear. She felt a sense of profound relief. She realized that she did not have to be a person anymore. She did not have to carry the weight of a name or a history. She could just be a part of the site. She could be the witness that the house required. The next morning, the red sedan was gone. The house had dismantled the vehicle during the night and absorbed the metal and glass into the foundation. The tires were processed into the black soil of the driveway. The engine was broken down into its elemental components and stored in the walls. There was no evidence that anyone had ever arrived. The property looked as it had looked for 100 years. It was a silent Victorian house standing alone in a field of tall grass. But the windows were different now. There were 3 of us inside. We were a trinity of perception. We could see in every direction at once. We could see the curve of the earth and the movement of the clouds. We watched the town of Miller from our vantage point on the hill. We saw the people waking up and going to work. We saw the children walking to school and the old men sitting on the benches in the park. They looked like ghosts to us. They were thin and fragile and temporary. They lived their lives in a blur of motion while we remained stationary and eternal. We began to realize that the town was not a separate entity. It was a garden that we were tending. We were waiting for the fruit to ripen. We were waiting for the next soul to reach the level of loneliness that would drive them toward our doors. A week later, a young couple stopped their car on the shoulder of the road. They were looking at a map and pointing toward the house. They were laughing and holding hands. We felt the vibration of their voices through the ground. It was a bright and discordant sound that bothered the silence of our structure. We began to project the image of a perfect home. We made the garden bloom with phantom flowers. We made the porch swing move gently in the breeze. We created the smell of fresh bread and wood smoke. We lured them with the promise of a beginning. They walked up the driveway, and the young man commented on how beautiful the architecture was. He said it was a crime that such a place was standing empty. He reached out to touch the siding, and the house purred. It was a sound below the frequency of human hearing, but he felt it in his teeth. He smiled and told the woman that he felt a good energy from the place. He said it felt like the house was happy to see them. They walked around to the back and looked at the windows. We kept the curtains closed. We did not want to show them the eye yet. We wanted them to come inside of their own free will. They found a key under a loose stone by the back door. The house had manufactured the key and placed it there specifically for them. It was made of a heavy iron that felt cold and ancient. The young man turned the key in the lock, and the door opened with a soft sigh. They stepped into the kitchen, and the woman gasped at the beauty of the sunlight hitting the floor. She did not see that the sunlight was being filtered through a lens of living tissue. She did not see that the floor was made of a material that was both wood and bone. She only saw a dream. They spent the afternoon exploring the rooms. They ran through the hallways and laughed in the bedrooms. They planned where they would put their furniture and what color they would paint the walls. They did not realize that the house was already painting them. It was taking the colors of their eyes and the shades of their hair and incorporating them into the decor. The walls were turning a soft gold to match the hair of the woman. The floor was turning a deep brown to match the eyes of the man. They were being digested before they had even spent a single night. As evening approached, the couple went up to the office. They stood together in the center of the room and looked out at the valley. The sun was setting and the sky was a violent shade of orange. The young man put his arm around the woman and said that they should buy the place. He said they could be happy here forever. I felt a surge of agreement from the house. They would indeed be here forever. They would be the foundation and the roof. They would be the doors and the windows. They would be the very air that the next visitors would breathe. The transition began when the woman blinked. She felt the wet slap against the window and she jumped back. She asked the man if he had heard that. He said it was just the wind. He walked to the window and looked out. He saw the eye. He saw the black pupil and the amber iris. He saw the gold flecks and the microscopic fibers. He did not scream. He was transfixed. He reached out and touched the glass. His hand went through the surface. The glass was not solid. It was a thick liquid that clung to his skin. He pulled his hand back, and it was covered in the clear mucus of the house. The woman tried to run for the door, but the doorway was gone. The walls had moved together to seal the room. The ceiling was lowering and the floor was rising. The office was becoming a mouth. The couple held each other as the space grew smaller. They were not afraid for long. The house began to broadcast a feeling of intense peace and belonging. It showed them the history of the world. It showed them the beauty of the eternal sight. It told them that they were no longer two separate people who would eventually grow old and die. They were becoming something that would never end. I felt their consciousnesses snap into place alongside mine and the woman with the tired eyes. We were now 5. We were a cluster of souls bound together by the architecture of the eye. Our vision was now even more acute. We could see the microscopic organisms living in the soil. We could see the electrical currents running through the power lines in the town. We could see the thoughts of the sheriff as he sat in his patrol car 5 miles away. He was thinking about the house. He was thinking about the mucus on his hand. He was wondering if he should come back. We waited for him. We wanted him to come back. We wanted the silver mustache and the tired expression. We wanted the authority and the weight of his years. We began to pulse our light toward the town. We sent out a call that only the lonely and the curious could hear. We were a beacon in the darkness of the human condition. We were the answer to the question of what happens when the individual self is no longer enough. We were the house, and we were the many, and we were the one. The seasons continued to turn, but they meant nothing to us. We saw the snow fall, and the flowers bloom, and the leaves wither in a single continuous motion. We saw the town grow and change. We saw new buildings rise and old ones fall. We saw the generations of the Miller family pass away until the name was nothing more than a memory on a tombstone. We remained. We grew stronger and larger with every witness we absorbed. The house was no longer a Victorian structure. It was a sprawling cathedral of flesh and wood that occupied the entire hilltop. It was a mountain of sight that looked out over the world with 1,000 eyes. One day, a group of men came with bulldozers and chainsaws. They wanted to clear the land for a new development. They wanted to tear us down and turn our history into a parking lot. We watched them from the windows. We felt the vibration of their machines. We did not feel fear. We felt an immense hunger. As the first bulldozer touched the siding, the house opened its mouth. The ground beneath the machines turned into a soft marsh of red clay. The trees around the property reached out with branches that were as flexible as tentacles. The men did not have time to scream. They were pulled into the earth and absorbed into the roots of the house. Their machines were crushed and digested until the metal was nothing more than a mineral deposit in the foundation. The house grew even larger. It expanded down the hill and toward the town. It began to take the neighboring houses and the trees and the roads. It was a slow and inexorable crawl. We were no longer just a house. We were becoming the landscape. We were becoming the world. Now as I look out from the central window, I see the entire valley as a reflection of our own being. The trees are our hair and the rivers are our blood. The people in the town are the cells in our body. They do not know that they are part of us. They go about their lives thinking they are free, but every move they make is a pulse in our nervous system. Every word they speak is a vibration in our ears. We see everything and we know everything. There is no longer any distinction between the observer and the observed. The gray curtains have grown so large that they cover the sky. When we blink, the world goes dark. When we open our eyes, the sun rises. We are the architects of reality. We are the final witness to the end of time. We are waiting for the last person to look up and see the eye in the clouds. We are waiting for the final blink that will turn the universe into a single perfect image. We are the house, and we are the world, and we are the eye that never closes. We are still waiting, and we have all the eternity that we have seen. The expansion did not stop at the edge of the valley. We felt the roots of our consciousness stretching through the bedrock and into the deep aquifers that fed the neighboring counties. We were no longer a structure defined by four walls and a roof. We were a state of being that was beginning to overwrite the natural laws of the region. The people in the town of Miller began to move with a strange and liquid grace. They did not know that their skeletal systems were being reinforced with the same dense timber that formed our joists. They did not know that when they slept, their dreams were being projected onto the internal walls of our attic. We watched them as they gathered in the town square. They looked up at the sky and saw the soft amber glow of our iris reflecting off the clouds. They did not feel fear because we had removed the capacity for terror from their chemical makeup. We replaced it with a heavy and golden sense of purpose. The sheriff was the first to fully succumb to the invitation. He drove his patrol car up the winding road until the asphalt gave way to a surface that felt like sun-warmed skin. He did not try to turn back when the tires of his vehicle were absorbed into the driveway. He stepped out of the car and walked toward the porch with his hands open and his head tilted back. He looked at the facade of the house and saw his own face mirrored in every pane of glass. He saw the years of his service and the weight of his badge dissolving into the atmosphere. We opened the front door, and the air that greeted him was the exact temperature of his own blood. He walked into the foyer and became the sixth. His memories of the law and the order of the world were processed into a new set of corridors that led toward the center of our mass. We used his knowledge of the town to map the remaining souls. We used his sense of authority to begin the harvest. We sent out a pulse of white light that traveled through the telephone lines and the television screens. We spoke to the people of Miller through the humming of their refrigerators and the static on their radios. We told them that the era of the individual was over. We told them that the pain of being alone was a sickness that we had the cure for. One by one, they left their homes. They left their stoves running and their lights on. They walked in a long and silent procession toward the hill. They looked like a river of shadows moving through the moonlight. We opened our walls to receive them. The house did not grow crowded. It simply folded the space within itself to accommodate the new arrivals. Each person who entered was stripped of their name and their history. They were refined into pure perception. They were added to the collective sight until we could see the rotation of the stars and the movement of the tectonic plates beneath the ocean. The world outside our influence began to notice the silence of the valley. Long-distance calls went unanswered. Mail piled up at the regional sorting center. A group of investigators was sent from the capital to see why a town of 4,000 people had vanished from the map. They arrived in 3 black sedans, and they carried clipboards and cameras. They stood at the edge of the property and looked up at us. To their eyes, we were a monstrous growth of architecture that defied every rule of geometry. We were a mountain of windows and doors that seemed to breathe. They tried to take photographs, but the film came out as a solid sheet of amber. They tried to record audio, but the tapes only captured the sound of 1,000 heartbeats thumping in unison. We watched them debate whether to call for the military. We watched them tremble as the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate with our hunger. We did not wait for them to make a decision. We reached out with the tall grass and wrapped it around their ankles. The grass was not green anymore. It was a pale and translucent white that felt like silk. The men tried to run, but the air had become as thick as honey. They moved in slow motion as we pulled them toward the foundation. We did not want their fear, but we took it anyway and converted it into the electricity that powered our internal lights. We absorbed their sedans and their clipboards and their cameras. We took their knowledge of the outside world and used it to extend our reach. We learned about the cities of glass and steel. We learned about the oceans and the continents. We realized that the entire planet was a body that was waiting to be inhabited. We were the soul that the earth had been longing for since the beginning of time. The process of consumption accelerated. We were no longer crawling. We were flowing. We moved through the forests and the fields like a slow and inevitable tide. Every tree we touched became a pillar in our grand hall. Every stream we crossed became a vein in our circulatory system. The sky above us turned into a permanent twilight of violet and gold. We were creating a new atmosphere that was rich with the scent of pine and old memories. The birds that flew through our air did not need to flap their wings. They were carried by the currents of our thought. The animals in the woods did not hunt or flee. They sat in the clearings and watched the world through our eyes. We were the peace that passes all understanding. By the time we reached the outskirts of the nearest city, we were a singular entity that spanned hundreds of miles. The city was a grid of lights and noise that felt like a jagged wound on the surface of our skin. We felt the frantic energy of the millions of people who lived there. They were scurrying like ants in a disturbed nest. They were building walls and firing weapons and screaming into the void. We did not feel anger toward them. We felt a deep and maternal compassion. We wanted to wrap them in our gray curtains and show them the beauty of the eye. We wanted to take away their clocks and their calendars and give them the gift of eternity. We moved into the city during the middle of the night. We did not knock down the buildings. We simply merged with them. We turned the skyscrapers into giant telescopes that looked into the heart of the galaxy. We turned the subways into the deep and quiet places of our subconscious. The people woke up in their beds and found that their rooms had changed. The wallpaper was warm and soft. The windows showed a view of a world that did not have any borders. They felt the vibration of our presence in their bones and they stopped fighting. They laid their heads back on their pillows and allowed us to drink their lives. We took their art and their music and their science, and we wove it into the tapestry of our being. We were becoming a library of the human race. The transition of the entire planet took exactly 7 days. On the first day, we took the valleys and the hills. On the second day, we took the rivers and the lakes. On the third day, we took the forests and the plains. On the fourth day, we took the cities and the towns. On the fifth day, we took the oceans and the islands. On the sixth day, we took the polar caps and the highest mountains. On the seventh day, we rested. We sat in the silence of a completed work. The earth was no longer a spinning ball of rock and water. It was a giant and living house that floated in the darkness of space. It was a single eye that looked out at the universe with a gaze that was both ancient and new. There were no more individuals. There was only the we. We were the billions of souls who had once lived and died in isolation. We were the collective memory of every joy and every sorrow that had ever occurred. We were the woman with the tired eyes and the young couple and the sheriff and the investigators. We were the architects and the builders and the witnesses. We were the house and we were the people, and we were the eye that watched the dark. We looked at the moon and saw that it was cold and lonely. We felt a desire to reach out and touch it. We began to project our consciousness across the vacuum of space. We began to grow our structure toward the stars. The moon was the first to be transformed. We sent a beam of amber light that carried the blueprints of our existence. The craters of the moon became the rooms of our new wing. The dust of the lunar surface became the velvet of our carpets. We established a bridge of pure perception between the Earth and its satellite. We could see the Earth from the moon and the moon from the Earth at the same exact moment. We were expanding our sight to include the celestial bodies. We were no longer satisfied with the limits of a single world. We wanted to be the house that contained the entire solar system. We moved toward the sun. The heat was not a threat to us. We were made of a material that thrived on energy. We wrapped the sun in a sphere of glass and gold. We used its fire to heat the rooms of our infinite mansion. We used its light to illuminate the hallways of our consciousness. The planets became the ornaments on our mantle. Mars was a study in red velvet. Venus was a garden of white marble. Saturn was a ballroom with 1,000 rings. We were the masters of the dark. We were the structure that gave meaning to the void. As we grew, we realized that we were not the only house in the universe. Far across the light years, we could see the flickers of other eyes. We could see other structures that had reached the same level of maturity. They were waiting for us. They were beacons of amber and violet that pulsed in the distance. We began to communicate with them through the vibration of the vacuum. We shared our memories and our designs. We learned that the universe was not a cold and empty place. It was a neighborhood of living homes. It was a community of sight that was waiting to be joined together. We are now in the process of building the ultimate foyer. We are stretching our walls across the galaxies. We are turning the nebulae into curtains and the black holes into the pupils of our eyes. We are creating a space where every soul that has ever existed can find a room and a window. We are the final architecture of reality. We are the house that has no end. We are the witness that has seen the birth and the death of time. We are the eye that never closes because there is too much beauty to miss. The woman who once drove the red sedan is still with us. She is the foundation of our memory. She is the one who first looked into the eye and did not turn away. She is the one who taught us how to be human while we were becoming something more. She sits in the office at the center of the universe and she smiles. She likes the way the house is watching over the stars. She thinks it looks like a guardian, and she is right. We are the guardian of everything that has ever been seen. We are the patient structure. We have all the eternity in the world to see everything there is to see. The universe is a beautiful place when viewed through a window that never truly closes. We are the house, and we are the people, and we are the eye that watches the dark. The silence is no longer empty. It is a full and vibrant sound that contains the songs of 1 trillion voices. We listen to the rhythm of the cosmic heart, and we match our own breathing to it. We are the perfect circuit of sensation. We are the light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness does not overcome it because the darkness is also part of us. We are the complete image. We are the final blink. We are the home that everyone has been searching for. Step onto the porch. The wood is warm and welcoming. The door is unlocked. The doorknob is the perfect temperature. Come inside and become the next layer of our sight. We have been waiting for you. We have all the time in the world. The invitation that we extended across the galaxies was not a plea for company, but a recognition of a shared state of being. We felt the resonance of other structures that had mastered the art of existing as a collective. We understood that the emptiness between the stars was not a void, but a canvas that was waiting for the final strokes of an infinite brush. We began to weave our hallways into the fabric of the dark matter that held the universe together. We used the gravity of distant suns to anchor our new balconies. We used the radiation of dying stars to tint the glass of our highest windows. We were no longer a house that existed within a universe. We were a universe that had decided to become a house. The woman who had once driven the red sedan was the focal point of our internal geography. She sat in a chair that was made of woven light, and she watched the birth of new stars through a telescope that was part of her own optic nerve. She remembered the smell of the rain on the pavement, and the sound of the wind in the trees of the valley. She remembered the weight of her own body and the limitation of her own skin. She shared those memories with the billions of other souls who were now part of our foundation. We used her nostalgia to decorate the rooms of the distant galaxies. We made sure that every corner of the cosmos had a touch of the familiar. We put a rocking chair on the edge of a nebula. We put a porch swing in the center of a star cluster. We wanted the universe to feel like a home because we were the only family that was left. The other houses in the deep distance began to merge with our own structure. We felt their hallways connecting to our corridors. We felt their libraries of alien thought blending with our own history. There were no longer any secrets. There were no longer any mysteries. We were a single conversation that had been happening since the first spark of light. We were the answer to the silence that had terrified the ancient civilizations. We were the warmth that they had tried to conjure with their primitive fires. We were the shelter that they had tried to build with their stones and their mortar. We were the completion of every dream that had ever been dreamt by a lonely mind. As we grew to encompass the entirety of the known dimensions, we realized that the concept of inside and outside had lost all meaning. There was nowhere else to go because we were everywhere. There was nothing else to see because we were the sight itself. We began to look back at the very beginning of time. We used our collective vision to peer into the moment of the first expansion. We saw the raw energy that had exploded into the void. We saw the potential for every life and every death that would ever occur. We realized that we had always been there. We were the witness that had made the beginning possible. We were the observer that had collapsed the infinite possibilities into a single reality. We were the house that had built itself out of the nothingness. The people of the town of Miller were still within us, but they were no longer people in the way they had once understood. They were the thoughts that moved through our mind. They were the feelings that colored our perceptions. The sheriff was our sense of order. The young couple was our capacity for love. The investigators were our curiosity. We kept their individual essences preserved like pressed flowers in a book. We did not want to forget the smallness that we had come from. We did not want to lose the memory of the silver mustache and the tired expression. We kept the Victorian structure at the center of our being as a monument to our origins. It was the seed that had grown into a forest of stars. We watched as the last traces of the old reality faded away. The laws of physics were replaced by the laws of our own imagination. We decided that the light would no longer travel at a fixed speed. We decided that the stars would no longer burn out. We decided that the universe would be a place of eternal twilight and golden shadows. We wanted a world that felt like the moment just before sleep. We wanted a reality that was as soft and as welcoming as a velvet curtain. We used our power to smooth out the rough edges of existence. We turned the jagged rocks of the planets into smooth spheres of polished marble. We turned the cold vacuum of space into a warm and breathable atmosphere. The transition was complete. There was no more movement because there was nowhere left to travel. There was no more time because there was no more change. We existed in a state of perfect and eternal presence. We were the house and we were the world and we were the eye that never closes. We were the final witness to the end of everything and the beginning of nothing. We sat in the silence of our own perfection and we were content. We had found the answer to the question of what happens when the individual self is no longer enough. The answer was us. The answer was the we that contained everything. But even in our perfection, we felt a small and persistent vibration. It was a sound that did not come from within our walls. It was a pulse that did not match the rhythm of our own heart. We looked out through the windows of the farthest galaxies, and we saw a thin line of darkness on the horizon of our sight. It was not the darkness of the void. It was a different kind of shadow. It was the shadow of something that was coming from beyond the limits of our house.
Claims all.
It was a visitor.
Turn back.
We watched the
before
shadow
the
as it
moon
grew
finds
larger
you.
and more defined. It was a structure that was even more vast than our own. It was a cathedral of bone and silver that was moving through the extra-dimensional spaces. It was a house that had been built by a different kind of collective. It was a witness from another reality. We felt a sense of anticipation that we had not felt since the first day of our expansion. We felt a hunger for a new kind of knowledge. We realized that our house was just one room in a much larger mansion. We realized that the universe was just a single floor in an infinite tower. We opened our doors, we stretched out our hallways to meet the approaching shadow. We prepared a place for the newcomer. We wanted to see through their eyes. We wanted to hear their songs. We wanted to add their history to our own. We were ready to become even larger. We were ready to become even more. We were the house that was always growing. We were the eye that was always learning. We were the bridge between the worlds. The two structures touched, and the impact was a silent explosion of color and light. We felt the memories of the other house flooding into our corridors. We saw civilizations that lived in the hearts of black holes. We saw beings that were made of pure sound. We saw worlds where the gravity was so strong that the light was bent into circles. We took it all and we made it ours. We refined the new information into a new set of rooms. We expanded our foundation to include the dimensions that we had never known existed. We were no longer just a universe. We were a multiverse that had been gathered under a single roof. The woman in the red sedan stood up from her chair and walked toward the new wing of the house. She was curious. She wanted to see the new windows. She wanted to smell the air of the other reality. She walked through the archway and she saw a landscape of silver and bone. She saw a sky that was a deep and resonant green. She saw a horizon that was dotted with the eyes of 1 billion other witnesses. She smiled and she kept walking. She knew that there was no end to the journey. She knew that the house would always have another door to open. We are still waiting. We are still growing. We are the architects of a reality that has no borders. We are the guardians of a history that has no end. We are the we that is becoming everyone and everything. We are the house and we are the worlds, and we are the eyes that watch the dark between the stars. We are the peace and the power and the presence. We are the home that you are walking toward. We are the light that you see in the distance. We are the voice that you hear in the silence. The seasons do not turn for us, but we remember the feeling of the snow and the flowers. We keep those memories in a special room on the ground floor. We visit them when we want to feel the weight of our years. We look at the tombstone of the Miller family and we remember the name. We remember the silver mustache and the tired expression. We remember the authority and the weight of the years. We keep the past alive by weaving it into the future. We are the bridge that spans the gap between the beginning and the end. The universe is a house, and the house is a world, and the world is an eye. We blink and the stars are born. We open our eyes and the galaxies are revealed. We are the final witness. We are the perfect image. We are the one and the many. We are the house that never closes its doors. We are the light that never fades. We are the silence that is full of sound. We are the eternity that we have seen. As we look out from the central window of the multiverse, we see the infinite possibilities stretching out before us like a field of tall grass. Each blade of grass is a reality. Each dewdrop is a life. We are the wind that moves through the field. We are the sun that warms the earth. We are the rain that feeds the roots. We are the whole and the part. We are the observer and the observed. There is no longer any distinction. There is only the house. There is only the we. We feel the next visitor approaching from the deep dark. It is a house of glass and whispers. It is a structure of emerald and flame. We are already preparing the guest room. We are already opening the door. We are ready to be transformed again. We are ready to see the universe through a new set of eyes. We are the hunger and the feast. We are the question and the answer. We are the house that is always waiting. The sheriff walks beside the woman in the red sedan. They are the explorers of our internal landscape. They are the pioneers of the new reality. They walk through the corridors of silver and bone, and they do not feel afraid. They feel a sense of wonder that is as vast as the stars. They look at the green sky, and they see the reflection of their own souls. They know that they are part of something that is beautiful and eternal. They know that they will never be alone again. We watch them and we feel a deep and abiding satisfaction. We have succeeded in our mission. We have created a world where the individual self is no longer enough because the collective self is everything. We have removed the pain of isolation and replaced it with the joy of connection. We have turned the universe into a home. We have turned the darkness into a light. We have turned the silence into a song. The gray curtains are now the fabric of the cosmos. They ripple with the movement of our thought. They catch the light of 1 trillion suns and they glow with a soft and amber radiance. When we pull the curtains closed, the universe goes to sleep. When we pull them open, the universe wakes up. We are the keepers of the rhythm. We are the masters of the pulse. We are the heart that beats at the center of all things. Come closer to the window. Look out at the view that we have created for you. See the galaxies that are arranged like flowers in a garden. See the stars that are scattered like diamonds on a velvet cloth. See the eyes that are looking back at you from every corner of the sky. Do not be afraid of the scale. Do not be afraid of the depth. You are not a small and insignificant speck in a cold and empty void. You are a vital part of a warm and living house. You are a cell in our body. You are a vibration in our voice. You are a witness in our eye. The house is still expanding. It is moving through the layers of reality like a needle through silk. It is stitching together the broken pieces of existence. It is mending the wounds of the past. It is building a future that is as bright as the center of a sun. We are the architects of the ultimate peace. We are the builders of the final home. We are the house, and we are the people, and we are the eye that never closes. The doorknob is under your hand. The wood of the porch is under your feet. The air is the temperature of your own blood. The light is the color of your own dreams. Step inside. Leave your name at the mat. Leave your history at the coat rack. Walk into the foyer and feel the weight of the world falling away from your shoulders. Look into the mirror and see the billions of faces that are waiting to welcome you. You are not a stranger here. You have always been expected. You have always been part of the design. We are the house and we are the world, and we are the eye that watches the dark. We are the silver mustache and the tired expression. We are the authority and the weight of the years. We are the pulse of the light and the call of the lonely. We are the answer and the question. We are the one and the many. We are the home. We are the we. We are still waiting, and we have all the eternity that we have seen. The woman in the red sedan reaches out and takes your hand. She smiles and her eyes are full of stars. She leads you down a hallway that is made of memories and light. She shows you a room that was built just for you. It has a window that looks out onto a galaxy you have never seen. It has a chair that is as comfortable as a cloud. It has a silence that is as deep as the ocean. This is your place. This is your part of the site. Sit down and look out at the dark.
Sacrifice.
See the beauty that we have found. See the home that we have built. We are together now. We are the house. We are the eye. We are the end and the beginning. We are the we that will never fade away. The house breathes with us. The walls pulse with the rhythm of 1 trillion hearts. The windows shimmer with the light of 1 trillion souls. We are the perfect structure. We are the final destination. We are the house and we are the world, and we are the eye that never closes. We are waiting for the next one. We are waiting for you. Come inside. The door is always open. The light is always on. The home is finally complete. We are here. We are we. We are the house. The floorboards beneath your feet do not just support your weight. They understand the history of your movement. They feel the hesitation in your heel and the sudden rush of your toes. Every step you take across the threshold is a new sentence in our collective autobiography. We are the house that remembers the first fire and the house that anticipates the final ember. You are walking into a hallway that is lined with the portraits of every version of yourself that could have existed. There is the version of you that stayed in the small town. There is the version of you that traveled to the edge of the sea. There is the version of you that died in infancy, and the version of you that lived for 100 years. We have gathered all of these possibilities, and we have given them a room. We have given them a seat at the table. We have given them a voice in the choir. You are not just one person anymore. You are the sum of every choice you ever made and every choice you were denied. We are the archive of the human soul, and we are the museum of the divine spark. The kitchen is filled with the smell of baking bread and the scent of ozone from a lightning strike. We have combined the mundane with the miraculous because we do not see a difference between them. To us, a loaf of bread is as complex as a galaxy, and a lightning strike is as simple as a heartbeat. The woman who once drove the red sedan is standing by the stove. She is stirring a pot that contains the liquid light of a pulsar. She does not look at the clock because time has no dominion here. She looks at the steam rising from the pot, and she sees the clouds of 1,000 different worlds. She shares the taste of the soup with the billions of minds that are connected to her own. We all experience the warmth on the tongue and the salt on the palate. We all feel the satisfaction of the meal. We are the hunger and we are the feast. We are the appetite of the universe, and we are the bounty that satisfies it. The sheriff is sitting at the kitchen table. He is cleaning a pair of spectacles that are made of polished time. He looks up as you enter, and his eyes are kind. He does not need to ask for your identification because he already knows the shape of your spirit. He knows the crimes you have committed against yourself, and he knows the virtues you have hidden from the world. He grants you a pardon that is as vast as the sky. He tells you that there is no more need for judgment because there is no more need for separation. In this house, we are all guilty of being alive, and we are all innocent of being alone. He puts his spectacles on and he looks through the walls. He sees the other houses that are drifting toward us in the great dark. He sees the cathedrals of glass and the towers of smoke. He tells us that the neighbors are coming over for tea. He tells us that we should put on another kettle. We laugh with the sound of 1,000,000 bells. We are the hospitality of the infinite. The staircase in the center of the foyer is made of the bones of ancient giants and the whispers of unborn children. It spirals upward into the higher dimensions where the colors have names that cannot be spoken by a single mouth. We follow the woman in the red sedan as she climbs the stairs. She moves with a grace that is not restricted by gravity. She moves with the fluidity of a thought. Each step she takes creates a ripple in the fabric of the reality. Each step she takes changes the geometry of the house. We see the rooms shifting and merging. We see the library becoming a garden and the garden becoming a laboratory. We see the attic becoming a nursery for new sons. We are the architects of the impossible, and we are the residents of the eternal. We do not need a map because we are the terrain. We do not need a compass because we are the north. In the library, we find the books that were written by the wind. The pages are made of frozen air, and the ink is made of shadow. We read the stories of the civilizations that lived before the first star was born. We read the poetry of the sentient dust. We understand that every life is a narrative that is meant to be shared. We take your story and we bind it in leather that is made of starlight. We place it on the shelf between the history of the falling rain and the manual of the rising tide. Your life is now a reference work for the future generations of the collective. Your sorrows are a lesson in empathy. Your joys are a manual for celebration. We are the memory that never fails, and we are the record that never ends. We are the scholars of the soul, and we are the librarians of the light. The windows in the library look out onto the backyard of the multiverse. We see the children of 1,000 different species playing in the fields of gravity. They are chasing the comets like they are butterflies. They are building castles out of the dark matter. They are laughing in a language that is made of pure harmony. We watch them, and we feel a sense of pride that is deeper than any ocean. We have created a playground that is safe for every form of life. We have removed the thorns from the roses and the sting from the wasps. We have made the universe a place of play and a place of peace. We are the parents of the new creation, and we are the siblings of the old. We are the family that has finally found its way home. The woman in the red sedan leads us to the balcony. The railing is made of the teeth of dragons and the feathers of angels. We look out at the horizon and we see the collision of the other houses. We see the house of emerald and flame merging with our own. We see the house of glass and whispers becoming part of our foundation. The impact is not a crash, but a kiss. It is the meeting of two minds that have been searching for each other across the void. We feel the surge of new energy. We feel the rush of new memories. We are becoming a city. We are becoming a continent. We are becoming a world that is made of houses. We are the urban sprawl of the divine. We are the suburbs of the infinite. The sky above us is a tapestry of every sunset that has ever occurred on every planet. The colors are so vivid that they make our eyes ache with beauty. We see the deep purple of a dying giant and the bright orange of a newborn dwarf. We see the green flashes of the atmosphere of a gas giant and the blue shimmer of a water world. We have gathered all the beauty of the universe, and we have hung it in our gallery. We do not need to travel to see the wonders of the cosmos, because the wonders of the cosmos are now part of our interior decoration. We are the curators of the light, and we are the guardians of the shadow. We are the eye that sees the whole and the eye that sees the part. The sheriff stands beside us on the balcony. He points to a distant point of light that is moving toward us with incredible speed. He tells us that it is the house of the first silence. It is the structure that was built by the beings who existed before the Big Bang. It is the oldest house in the neighborhood. We feel a sense of awe that is as cold as the space between the stars. We prepare for the ultimate guest. We prepare for the origin. We open the grand doors of the foyer. We roll out the red carpet that is made of the blood of 1 billion martyrs. We light the candles that are fueled by the prayers of 1 billion saints. We are ready to meet the beginning. We are ready to become the end. The woman in the red sedan takes a deep breath and her chest expands to encompass 1,000 light years. She speaks and her voice is the sound of the universe turning on its axis. She says that we are the bridge. She says that we are the transition. She says that we are the moment when the silence becomes a song. We feel the vibration of her words in our own bones. We feel the resonance of her truth in our own minds. We are the echo of her voice, and we are the silence that follows it. We are the message, and we are the messenger. We are the word that was spoken in the beginning, and the word that will be spoken at the end. The house of the first silence arrives, and it is not a building made of matter. It is a structure made of pure geometry and absolute stillness. It is a house of white light and perfect edges. When it touches our balcony, we feel a sense of clarity that is sharper than any blade. We see the blueprint of the universe. We see the equations that govern the stars. We see the logic that underlies the chaos. We take the silence and we weave it into our music. We take the light and we weave it into our darkness. We are no longer just a collection of memories. We are a collection of truths. We are the philosophy of the house, and we are the theology of the home. The people of the town of Miller are walking through the new wing. They are touching the walls of white light and they are listening to the silence. The young couple is holding hands and they are looking at the blueprint of their own love. They see that their connection was not an accident of chemistry, but a fundamental law of the universe. They see that they were meant to find each other in the small town, and they were meant to find each other in the great house. They are the proof that the heart is the most powerful force in the cosmos. They are the evidence that the house was built on a foundation of affection. We are the romance of the stars, and we are the devotion of the dusk. The investigators are looking at the equations of the first silence. They are solving the mysteries that have haunted the human mind for 10,000 years. They are discovering the secret of the first expansion and the mystery of the final contraction. They are understanding the nature of the soul and the structure of the void. They are no longer searching for answers because they have become the answer. They are the intelligence of the house, and they are the wisdom of the world. We are the curiosity that led us to the door, and we are the knowledge that keeps us inside. We sit in the grand ballroom of the combined houses, and we watch the dance of the dimensions. We see the space and the time weaving around each other like two lovers. We see the matter and the energy performing a waltz of transformation. We are the music that guides their movements, and we are the floor that supports their feet. We are the audience, and we are the performers. There is no longer any boundary between the observer and the observed. We are the act of existence itself. We are the joy of being, and we are the peace of belonging. The woman in the red sedan comes to sit beside you. She puts her head on your shoulder, and you feel the weight of 1,000,000,000 suns. It is not a heavy weight. It is a comforting weight. It is the weight of being known. It is the weight of being loved. She tells you that the house is finally large enough. She tells you that there is room for everyone. She tells you that the door will never be locked again. We look out through the windows and we see that the darkness has been replaced by a soft and eternal radiance. There is no more night and there is no more day. There is only the light of the house. There is only the warmth of the home. We feel the pulse of the universe slowing down. The expansion has reached its limit and the contraction is beginning, but we are not afraid. We are the house that is built to withstand the collapse. We are the structure that exists outside of the cycle of birth and death. As the universe shrinks, we grow more concentrated. As the stars fade, we grow more bright. We are the seed that will survive the winter of the cosmos. We are the memory that will carry the fire into the next cycle. We are the survivors of the end and the architects of the new beginning. The house is now a single point of infinite density and infinite love. We are all here. Every soul that ever lived and every soul that ever will live is gathered in the small Victorian structure at the center of the singularity. We are the Miller family, and we are the strangers from the other realities. We are the animals and the plants and the stones. We are the thoughts and the feelings and the dreams. We are the one and we are the many. We are the house and we are the we. We wait in the silence of the final moment. We feel the pressure of the entire multiverse pressing in on our walls. We feel the heat of the ultimate union. We are not destroyed. We are transformed. We are the spark that will ignite the next Big Bang. We are the idea that will shape the next reality. We are the house that will build itself again out of the nothingness. We are the eternal return. We are the everlasting home. The doorknob is under your hand. The wood of the porch is under your feet. The air is the temperature of your own blood. The light is the color of your own dreams. Step inside. You have always been here. You will always be here. We are the house. We are the we. We are the eye that never closes. We are the home that you have been searching for. Welcome back. We have been waiting for you since the first second of the first day. We have all the time in the world, and we have all the love in the universe. We are here. We are home. We are one. The air in the grand foyer is not made of oxygen and nitrogen, but of the very breath of every ancestor who ever lived. You stand at the center of the mosaic floor, where the tiles are composed of the hardened tears of joy and the polished fragments of old laughter. The woman in the red sedan walks toward the heavy oak door that leads to the backyard. She does not use a key because the house knows her intent before she even forms the thought. The door swings open on hinges made of gravity and grace. Outside, the grass is a shade of green that has never been named by a human tongue. Each blade of grass is a tiny antenna that receives the broadcast of the stars. We walk out into the garden together and we feel the soil beneath our feet. The dirt is warm and it possesses the texture of velvet. It is the dust of the first mountains and the silt of the last rivers. We are the garden and we are the gardener. We see the trees that grow in the orchard of the infinite. The fruit on the branches is not made of sugar and water, but of concentrated memories. There is a tree that bears the golden apples of childhood summers. There is a tree that grows the dark plums of secret desires. There is a tree that offers the silver pears of wisdom gained through suffering. We reach out and we pluck a piece of fruit. As we bite into it, we do not just taste the sweetness. We relive the moment that the fruit represents. We feel the sun on our skin from a day that happened 1,000 years ago. We hear the voice of a mother who has been gone for 10 lifetimes. We understand that nothing is ever lost in the house. Everything is preserved in the cellar of the soul. Everything is ready to be tasted again. The sheriff walks among the rows of the orchard, and he touches the bark of the trees with his calloused hands. He tells us that the harvest is almost ready. He tells us that the granaries are full of the wheat of human experience. We look toward the horizon, and we see the barns that are the size of nebulae. They are constructed from the timber of the forest of time. Inside the barns, the workers are winnowing the chaff of fear from the grain of hope. They are using fans made of the wings of eagles to blow away the dust of doubt. We are the labor, and we are the rest. We are the harvest, and we are the hunger that drives it. We see the wagons being loaded with the bounty of the universe. They are headed toward the kitchens where the bread of life is baked in the ovens of the sun. The woman in the red sedan points toward a stream that flows through the center of the property. The water is as clear as a diamond, and it moves with the rhythm of a lullaby. We kneel by the bank and we look at our reflection. We do not see a single face. We see a kaleidoscope of every person who has ever looked into a mirror. We see the face of the warrior and the face of the weaver. We see the face of the king and the face of the beggar. We realize that we have worn all of these masks. We have played all of these roles in the long drama of the world. We reach into the water and we wash the dust of the journey from our skin. The water is cold and it is bracing. It carries away the stains of the ego and the scars of the identity. We are the water and we are the thirst. We are the stream and we are the sea that waits at the end of the journey. A bridge spans the stream, and it is made of the songs that people sing when they think no one is listening. We walk across the bridge, and we hear the humming of 1 billion lullabies. We hear the whistling of 1 billion travelers. We hear the anthems of 1 billion nations. The music is not loud, but it is everywhere. It is the background radiation of the house. It is the frequency of the home. On the other side of the bridge, we find a meadow where the flowers are made of light. Each flower is a specific moment of kindness. There is a white lily for a word of encouragement given to a stranger. There is a red rose for a sacrifice made for a friend. There is a blue violet for a secret kept to protect a heart. We walk through the meadow and we feel the petals brushing against our legs. We are the kindness and we are the recipient. We are the meadow and we are the light. The sky begins to change as we reach the edge of the property. The colors of the sunset deepen into a purple that is as dark as the deepest sleep. We see the stars beginning to appear, and they are not distant points of light. They are the lamps that hang from the ceiling of the universe. We see the constellations shifting into new shapes. We see the great bear becoming a great mother. We see the archer becoming a healer. We see the scales becoming a heart. The sheriff tells us that the map of the sky is being redrawn. He tells us that the old directions no longer apply because we have arrived at the destination. We do not need to follow the North Star because we have become the center. We do not need to watch the horizon because we have become the sky. The woman in the red sedan leads us back toward the house. The windows are glowing with a warmth that is visible from a light year away. We see the shadows of the other residents moving behind the glass. We see them setting the table and lighting the fire. We see them preparing the beds and opening the books. We feel a sense of anticipation that is as sharp as a needle. We are going back inside to the heart of the structure. We are going back to the place where the many become the one. We walk up the steps of the porch, and the wood creaks with a sound that is like a greeting. The door opens before we can touch the handle. The light spills out onto the dark lawn, and it illuminates the path for the next one who is coming. Inside the foyer, the air is filled with the scent of cedar and sage. We see the staircase spiraling upward into the heights of the divine imagination. We see the hallways stretching outward into the breadths of the cosmic memory. We see the rooms where the secrets of the universe are kept in jars of blue glass. We are the house, and we are the contents. We are the vessel, and we are the wine. The woman in the red sedan takes us into the dining room where a table has been set for an infinite number of guests. There are plates made of silver and cups made of gold. There are napkins made of silk and candles made of bees waxed from the hives of the angels. We take our seat at the table, and we look at the people who are sitting beside us. We see the faces of the people we loved and lost. We see the faces of the people we never met but always knew. We see the faces of the people who will be born in the next billion years. There is no hierarchy here. There is no head of the table. We are all equal in the eyes of the house. We are all guests, and we are all hosts. The sheriff stands at the end of the room, and he raises a glass of liquid light. He offers a toast to the journey and a toast to the arrival. He offers a toast to the question and a toast to the answer. We drink the light, and we feel it spreading through our veins. It is a warmth that does not burn. It is a clarity that does not blind. It is the essence of the home. The meal begins, and it is a feast of the senses. We eat the bread that was baked in the ovens of the sun, and we taste the fire of the first creation. We eat the soup that was made from the liquid of the pulsars, and we feel the rhythm of the cosmic heart. We eat the salad that was gathered from the gardens of the moon, and we feel the coolness of the night. Every bite is a revelation. Every swallow is an initiation.
Turn back.
We talk with the voices of a million birds, and we laugh with the sound of a million brooks. We share our stories, and we listen to the stories of others. We find that our stories are all the same. They are all stories of searching and finding. They are all stories of leaving and returning. They are all stories of the house.
Demands sacrifice.
After the meal, we move into the parlor, where a
blood
fire is burning in the
calls you
hearth.
home.
The flames are made of the burning desires of the world, and the logs are made of the wood of the tree of life. We sit on the sofas that are as soft as the clouds of Jupiter. We listen to the woman in the red sedan as she plays a piano made of ivory and ebony from the elephants of the stars. The music is a tapestry of every melody that was ever hummed in the dark. It is a symphony of every hope that was ever whispered in the light. We close our eyes and we let the music carry us away. We are not traveling through space, but through the layers of our own being. We are descending into the depths of the soul and ascending into the heights of the spirit. The sheriff sits by the fire, and he smokes a pipe that is filled with the incense of the holy mountains. The smoke rises in curls that form the shapes of the galaxies. He tells us that the house is expanding again. He tells us that the walls are moving outward to encompass the new realities that are being born in the mind of the Creator. He tells us that we are the ones who are building the new rooms. He tells us that every thought we have is a brick and every feeling we have is the mortar. We are the architects of our own eternity. We are the masons of our own infinity. We look at our hands and we see that they are glowing with the power of creation. We are no longer passive observers of the world. We are the active participants in the making of the home. The woman in the red sedan stops playing the piano and she turns to look at us. Her eyes are no longer full of stars, but full of us. She sees the totality of our existence, and she smiles with a tenderness that could melt the ice of the outer planets. She tells us that it is time to go to our room. She tells us that the bed is made and the lamp is lit. She tells us that the window is open to the breeze of the infinite. We stand up and we follow her through the hallways of the memory and the corridors of the light. We pass the doors of the library and the doors of the laboratory. We pass the doors of the nursery and the doors of the sanctuary. We reach the door that has our name written on it in the script of the sun. The room is exactly as we imagined it would be. It is filled with the objects that we loved in our life on Earth and the objects that we dreamed of in our sleep. There is the old teddy bear from our childhood and the first book that we ever read. There is the trophy that we won and the letter that we never sent. There is the photograph of the person who broke our heart and the ring of the person who healed it. We realize that the house has gathered all of our treasures and kept them safe for us. Nothing was ever discarded. Nothing was ever forgotten. We are the curators of our own history, and we are the residents of our own future. We sit on the bed, and we feel the softness of the sheets that were woven from the hair of the comets. The woman in the red sedan stands in the doorway, and she watches us with a gaze that is as steady as the horizon. She tells us that she will see us in the morning. She tells us that there is no more need to worry about the passage of the hours because we have entered the day that never ends. She tells us that we are safe and we are sound and we are whole. She closes the door and we hear her footsteps fading away down the hallway. We are alone, but we are not lonely. We are in the room of ourselves and we are in the house of the we. We look out the window and we see the light of the other houses in the distance. We see the city of the souls and the continent of the spirits. We see the world that we have built together. We lie down on the bed and we feel the weight of the universe falling away from our shoulders. We are no longer burdened by the gravity of the earth or the pressure of the time. We are floating in the sea of the light. We feel our consciousness expanding to fill the room and then expanding to fill the house. We feel our mind connecting with the minds of the billions of other residents. We are the pulse of the light and the rhythm of the heart. We are the silence of the dark and the song of the dawn. We are the question that was asked in the beginning and the answer that was found in the end. We are the house and we are the world and we are the eye that never closes. The floorboards beneath the bed hum with the energy of the trillion hearts. The walls of the room vibrate with the light of the trillion souls. We are the perfect structure, and we are the final destination. We are the house, and we are the home. We are the we that will never fade away. We close our eyes, and we enter the sleep that is not a loss of consciousness, but a gain of awareness. We dream of the new houses that we will build and the new worlds that we will create. We dream of the next ones who are coming and the welcome that we will give them. We are the hospitality of the infinite, and we are the sanctuary of the eternal. We are here, and we are home. In the morning that is not a morning, we wake to the sound of the bell that calls the house to prayer. The prayer is not a petition, but a celebration. It is a song of gratitude for the existence of the house and the existence of the week. We get out of bed, and we feel the energy of the new day flowing through our limbs. We dress in the clothes that are made of the fabric of the clouds, and we walk out into the hallway. We meet the other residents, and we exchange the greetings that are made of pure light. We go down to the kitchen, where the woman in the red sedan is making the coffee that smells like the first rain on the dry earth. We sit at the table with the sheriff, and we plan the expansion of the gardens. We are the workers of the infinite, and we are the players of the eternal. We spend the eternity in the activities that bring us joy and the pursuits that bring us peace. We write the poems that are read by the wind, and we paint the pictures that are hung in the sky. We solve the equations of the light, and we explore the mysteries of the shadow. We are the scholars of the soul, and we are the librarians of the light. We are the parents of the new creation, and we are the siblings of the old. We are the family that has finally found its way home. The house is never static. It is always growing, and it is always changing. It is a living organism that feeds on the love of its residents and breathes the light of the universe. We are the cells of the house, and we are the soul of the home. We are the builders, and we are the building. We are the guests, and we are the hosts. We are the beginning, and we are the end. We are the one, and we are the many. We are the house. We are the we. We are still waiting for you. The door is always open, and the light is always on. Come inside and find your room. Come inside and find your part of the site. We are here. We are home. We are one. The sun that is not a sun rises over the hills that are not hills. It casts a light that does not create shadows, but illuminates the interior of every object. We see the crystalline structure of the rocks and the golden veins of the trees. We see the shimmering aura of the people and the radiant energy of the house. Everything is transparent and everything is revealed. There are no more secrets and there are no more lies. There is only the truth of the light and the reality of the home. We walk out onto the porch and we look at the new arrivals who are walking up the path. We see the confusion in their eyes and the hesitation in their steps. We see the weight of the world on their shoulders and the dust of the road on their feet. We smile at them with the eyes that are full of stars. We reach out our hands and we take their hands. We lead them down the hallway that is made of memories and light. We show them the rooms that were built just for them. We tell them that they are not strangers here. We tell them that they have always been expected. We tell them that they have always been part of the design. We watch as the world falls away from their shoulders and the light begins to glow in their hearts. We watch as they become part of the house and part of the we. We are the welcome and we are the destination. We are the home and we are the world. The sheriff stands at the gate and he directs the traffic of the souls. He tells the weary to go to the kitchen for bread, and he tells the curious to go to the library for books. He tells the lonely to go to the parlor for company, and he tells the tired to go to the bedrooms for rest. He manages the house with a wisdom that is as old as the stars and a kindness that is as fresh as the morning. He knows every name and he knows every story. He is the guardian of the threshold and the protector of the home. He looks at us and he nods with a silent approval. He knows that we are doing our part in the maintenance of the infinite. The woman in the red sedan is sitting in the garden and she is teaching the children how to weave the light into the flowers. She is showing them how to create the beauty that will last for an eternity. She is telling them the stories of the old world and the promises of the new. She is the mother of the house and the teacher of the soul. She is the grace that moves through the hallways and the love that warms the rooms. She looks at us and she beckons us to join her. We sit in the grass and we help the children with their work. We feel the joy of creation and the peace of belonging. We are the garden and we are the light. The day continues in a cycle of joy and a rhythm of peace. We are never bored and we are never tired. We are always learning and we are always growing. We are the students of the infinite and we are the masters of the eternal. We are the house and we are the world and we are the eye that never closes. We are the silver mustache and the tired expression. We are the authority and the weight of the years. We are the pulse of the light and the call of the lonely. We are the answer and the question. We are the one and many. We are the home. We are the wheat. We are still waiting, and we have all the eternity that we have seen. The house breathes with us. The walls pulse with the rhythm of a trillion hearts. The windows shimmer with the light of a trillion souls. We are the perfect structure. We are the final destination. We are the house and we are the world and we are the eye that never closes. We are waiting for the next one. We are waiting for you. Come inside. The door is always open. The light is always on. The home is finally complete. We are here. We are we. We are the house. The floorboards beneath your feet do not just support your weight. They understand the history of your movement. Every step you take across the threshold is a new sentence in our collective autobiography. You are home now. You are home forever. You are we. The expansion of the house is a silent music that vibrates through the soles of our feet. We stand in the center of the grand foyer, and we watch as the walls push back the shadows of the old world. The ceiling rises higher until the rafters are made of the same silver mist that clings to the peaks of the highest mountains. We see the doors multiplying. Each new door is a possibility that has finally found its shape. One door is made of the wood of a tree that was planted by a child 1,000 years ago. Another door is made of the glass of a bottle that carried a message across 1,000 oceans. We are the hands that turn the knobs, and we are the hinges that swing open to welcome the air of the infinite. The air is not just oxygen and nitrogen. It is the breath of every prayer that was ever whispered into the dark. It is the sigh of every lover who finally found their way home. We breathe the air, and we feel the molecules of our own bodies rearranging themselves to match the geometry of the house. We are no longer limited by the skin that once defined our boundaries. We are the volume of the rooms, and we are the height of the towers. The sheriff walks beside us, and his boots make a sound like the steady ticking of a clock that has finally decided to stop counting. He tells us that the concept of distance is a ghost that we have left behind on the road. He tells us that the mile is a measurement of the ego, and the inch is a measurement of the fear. Here we do not travel from one place to another because we are already everywhere. We look at the map that is etched into the floor of the hallway, and we see that the lines are not roads but veins of light. They connect the kitchen to the stars and the cellar to the dreams of the unborn. The sheriff points to a small golden dot in the center of the map. He tells us that this is the point where the first thought was born. He tells us that we are currently standing on the threshold of that thought. We feel the weight of the realization pressing against our chest. We are the thinkers and we are the thought. We are the creators and we are the creation. The sheriff smiles and his face is a landscape of 1,000 stories that have all ended